Direct from the Coupe de Carp and streaming around the world on blasttheradio.com, Twitch TV, and Facebook Live. Engaging you in conversations about the hot topics of the day. The number to call is 613-413-2217. And now, the legendary Lowell Green, live on blasttheradio.com.
Hi, John. Thank you. Peggy Lee.
Oh, yeah.
Fever.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. When I was a young man, I had a thing for Peggy Lee. She was, in my opinion at that time, and I'm sure that I wouldn't be alone, thought that she was the height of sexuality. Oh, man. Peggy Lee.
Still giving you fever, apparently.
Yeah, still gets the hair on the back of my neck standing up. Peggy Lee. I have a question, John, and for all of our listeners, watchers. Will any of you, do you think, ever buy an electric-powered vehicle, either fully battery-powered or as a hybrid? There's a real good reason that I'm asking this question, because it's becoming increasingly relevant. Wait till I say the word properly. The reason I ask is that governments in several Western countries, Sweden included, have begun passing legislation banning the sale of all internal combustion vehicles sometime in the near future. Some car companies have already begun tooling up for a much larger electric car production. And I'll go into some details there that may surprise you. So, are we making a mistake, in your opinion? Are we dreaming in Technicolor when we think that, in a few years, virtually every car in the driveway, in the garage, is going to be electric powered? Is that really, do you think, going to happen? I'm very suspicious, and here's why. Thus far, there doesn't appear to be very much enthusiasm for electric cars, at least not in this country. Okay, and I've got the facts and figures here to prove it. You may be surprised to learn that last year, believe it or not, John, about 2 million vehicles were sold in Canada. But despite heavy government rebates, about $5,000 in many cases, only about 5,000 electric vehicles were sold. That's out of 2 million, only about 5,000 were either fully battery-powered or hybrids. Now, the number may increase this year. It probably will, but something, as you drive around, I don't see very many electric vehicles. I drive around the neighborhood. We go into Stittsville once in a while, drive around, every home, it seems to me, there's got 3 cars in the driveway and out in front, probably 2 more in the garage. I don't know. I don't see any electric vehicles. Very few. You're on the Queensway. How many electric vehicles do you see? Now, maybe I'm just not spotting them, but seriously, last year in Canada, about 2 million vehicles sold. Only about 5,000 of them are electric, despite, as I say, hefty government rebates, up to $5,000 per car. So, what do you think? And don't forget, another reason that I'm really wondering if the fate of electric vehicles is going to be what we're being told, at least in this country, is the fact that many governments are beginning to cut back on the rebates. I'm going to tell you right now that if we get a conservative government, which doesn't look like we will, but if we do, I don't think you're going to see any more rebates for electric vehicles. I mean, why we would be giving money back to people who can afford $100,000, $150,000 vehicle beats the hell out of me, and I'm sure it beats the hell out of you. So what I'm saying is that there's very little evidence that so far people are interested in electric vehicles, and there could be a number of reasons. That may change. Public opinion changes and things like this. But I'm just not sure how practical they are in this weather. My wife asked a very good question this morning when we were talking about electric vehicles. I said, Deb, could you ever see yourself driving an electric vehicle? She said, what would I do with an electric vehicle stuck for an hour on a Queensway, backup? I mean, regularly, even today, with lowered traffic, you've got traffic tie-ups, half an hour, 3/4 of an hour. What happens? You run out of battery power in a tie-up. Well, that's just, and how effective are they in the winter? I don't know. I know that some of you who probably are listening, some of you watching, may have an electric vehicle. We have a dear friend, a dear couple actually, and they've had an electric vehicle for a long time. He swears by it, and I can understand that, but I just don't see. I can see there be more and more electric vehicles, but I just don't see that there's going to be a big rash of them. Certainly no evidence yet. And then, of course, the other question is this. Supposing that every other house did get, or every house got an electric vehicle, supposing the Canadian government, I mean, this government is so eco-wacko that God knows, I wouldn't put it past Trudeau to outlaw all fossil fuel vehicles in the next 4 or 5 years. So how would we possibly power everybody's electric vehicle? We would have to, it would cost us billions and billions and billions to redo the entire grid, the electrical grid. The electrical grid we have now could never possibly power all kinds of electric vehicles. It just could not. And even the electric vehicles will admit that. So what do you think? In all honesty, even if they lowered the price, because there's no question that I think the price of electric vehicles is going to come down. Things like this usually decline in price. If the price did come down, would you please, I'd love to get from you a phone call or a text or whatever, email. In your opinion, is there anything that would convince you to buy an electric car, either totally electric or a plug-in, a hybrid? Do you think electric vehicles are practical in Ottawa's weather? Now, I must tell you that the electric vehicle movement here in Canada is part of Trudeau's grand plan to convert everything in the country to green energy, to wipe out fossil fuels altogether. That's no secret. He hates fossil fuels. He would love to bury Saskatchewan and Alberta and just leave the oil in the ground and let us buy it all from the United States and Saudi Arabia. So, I mean, in addition to all of this, we know he's scrapped pipelines, etc. He discourages investment in the entire energy section, green energy, of course, being the exception. So it's all part of his grand plan. His grand plan to force us, and I mean force, to abandon fossil fuel. And this grand plan becomes even more evident in about 3 weeks' time. I just have to remind you, sorry for the bad news, and that is that in 3 weeks' time, on April the 1st, it's no joke, the carbon tax will be increased in this country 50%, which means everything from gasoline to food, clothing, airline tickets, heat your home is going to cost us more. Now, it's part of the grand plan to get us out of the fossil fueled, electric vehicles and get into electric vehicles, and to heat and provide power to us from the windmills and solar panels. That's all part of the great plan. All right. Now, John, have we got some emails coming in here?
We've got a number of comments. Yeah.
Good. Fire away.
Also, can I draw your attention? It's interesting you brought this up today. An article published the first of this month on driving.ca says that most Canadians plan to buy an electric vehicle. This according to KPMG. They say that 68% of the people they surveyed plan to buy an electric vehicle within the next 5 years.
Boy, I don't believe it for a moment.
I don't either. But here's some.
There's certainly no evidence of it. I mean, as I say, last year 2 million sold, only 5,000. I'm sorry. 2 million sold, and 5,000 were electric vehicles, either plug-ins. Then there's some other facts that are very interesting. Yes, John, some more emails here.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you. I think
no problem.
You're sort of back and forth. Guy says, can anyone with an electric car in Ontario honestly tell me how much it costs per charge and have figured it out? Honestly. Nina says, I have a question for you. What will happen to the power grid, and won't they need a charging station for every parking space available everywhere, like malls, hotels, motels, restaurants, hospitals, etc.? Lisa says she does see a lot of Teslas. They are an all-electric vehicle, of course. She says of electric
cars...
Where
do you see them? I don't see them around. Do you see them around, John?
I do, yes, absolutely.
Do you?
Yeah. Yep. She says the Tesla's the one I see. I see a lot of hybrids. Tesla's the only all-electric I see, though.
Yeah.
She says if electric cars were more affordable, she'd buy one. And then she adds, I'm almost sure that most of those green tree huggers, political elites, are driving around in gas-guzzling SUVs. Glenn says, a better question, how many electric vehicles do you see on the highway when driving to Toronto? $25 million in rebates annual right now. Ann says, do you have to pay at these charging stations? Kent asks, go ahead, Lowell.
Well, I just want to, there's some of these texts are commenting on some of the thoughts that I have here.
Yep.
The carbon tax, which, as I say, increases 50% on April the 1st, is designed to get us, among other things, mostly though, the intent is to get us to drive less and drive smaller vehicles, to burn less fossil fuel. So, we've had carbon tax for a long time. We've had the clean air tax, etc. It's estimated that it adds pretty close to about 30 cents per liter of gasoline at the pumps, and God knows how much to heat your home. All of the various kinds of carbon taxes. He's just got carbon tax on top of carbon tax. And then they got the HST on top of the carbon tax on top of the carbon tax. Just to sort of improve things a little bit. So, but is it working? If the intent is to get us to drive smaller vehicles, less, and get us out of fossil fuel vehicles, is it working? Well, let me give you some more facts, okay? Incredibly. Now, this is absolute fact, okay? In fact, I have a story about this in my latest book. Last year, fully 70% of all vehicles sold in Canada were either light pickup trucks or SUVs. I mean, next time you're out on the road, how many sedans do you see? How many two-door sedans do you see out there? Hardly any. Everybody's either driving. I mean, it's amazing. In fact, the 7 most popular brands of vehicles in Canada are light pickup trucks.
Yeah.
This is so. If the intent of the carbon tax is to get us out of big vehicles, it's not working. In fact, just the opposite. And as an example of this, do you know that General Motors, which used to make about 7 or 8 different brands of sedans, various kinds, are now only making 3 brands. As of this year, GM no longer makes, well, let me see, I'll get this right. No longer makes, these are sedans, the Buick LaCrosse, the Cruze, the Impala, or the Cadillac CT6. So GM only has 3 sedans left, and there's all sorts of speculation that in the next couple of years, General Motors won't be making any small vehicles anymore. Now, there'll still be some small vehicles, I suppose, some of these other, but that's what's happening, folks. Despite the carbon tax, the clean air tax, and all of the other taxes, supposedly to get us out of these big vehicles, more and more of us are driving big vehicles. So why, I mean, if it's not working, why are we doing it? Why are we impovering ourselves? Why can't I talk? If it was working. If I could see that, holy smokes, more and more people are driving small vehicles, more and more people are getting into life, and I would say, well, you know what, it's working. Maybe it's got some value, but it's not working. All right. Talking about the carbon tax, I must remind you again that on April the 1st, the carbon tax is increased by 50% in this country. This means that the cost of everything is going to go up, including the cost of glass, which means that if you have any projects that you're thinking of in your home, new windows, new doors, window repairs, want to build a greenhouse, whatever it is, new patio when you want some glass, check out Centennial Glass right now. Get them to price it out now, okay? And that means that you'll be able to escape the increased cost of everything. Because when the carbon tax goes up, everything goes up. Because, I mean, let's face it, the delivery trucks that Centennial has got to go out to your home, they're going to have to pay more for gas, et cetera, et cetera. So it just stands to reason that the price of everything, including glass and service and everything, is going to go up. So beat that. Call Centennial Glass right now. Get them to come in, give you a quote for whatever job it is, and save yourself a pile of money. You got some more texts coming in here, John.
We do, and I should invite people to call as well. The number here is 613-413-2217. The number is on the screen if you're watching Lowell on Facebook, on Twitch, and now on YouTube as well. 613-413-2217. A text from Barry who says, Lowell, how is Trudeau going to heat Parliament Hill? Justice Building and National Archives are all heated by the same boiler plant hidden behind the Archives building, and it runs boilers on natural gas or Bunker C oil, says Barry.
That's true.
Nina says, can you just imagine one of these little cars falling into one of our potholes? Kent says the electric vehicles are mostly charged overnight when the grid has capacity. Doug says a windmill in every yard and solar panels covering every roof. There you go. Erlene, to answer your question, electric car? She says no. Over on Twitch, Chrissy says she'll let you know about the electric vehicle. Her brother has ordered an E-Mustang. She can't wait to see it. His license plate he already has ready to go and everything to put on it. Let me see. Pauline says, can you imagine the price of electricity if everyone had to plug in your car every night? Electrical power is already sky high. The cost of electric cars are not economically priced. When it's minus 30, I can just see how well it starts after sitting unplugged for 8 to 9 hours.
Let me throw out another question for our listeners here, okay? Let me ask you this. Despite your plans vis-a-vis electric cars, do you think that we taxpayers who cannot afford or don't want an electric car, that money from our taxes should be taken to give rebates to people who want to buy electric vehicles? Should there be government rebates for electric vehicles, no matter where you stand on the economy, no matter where you stand on ecology? Do you think that taxpayers' money should go to people who are buying electric vehicles? And there are many other questions in similar vein, but actually the point concerning the grid is very well taken. Not only the grid, but where are we going to get all of this power? Now, we have plenty of power, plenty of reserve power now to handle all of our needs. But I'm going to tell you something, folks. Despite spending billions, and I mean billions, tens of billions of dollars on windmills and solar panels and new grids and all the rest of it, it's producing virtually nil. I checked. Now, I've said this 100 times to you. Don't take my word for it. A lot of people say, greenies, Okay, all you have to do, if you don't believe me, in fact, I would wish you would do this every day. www.ieso.ca. That is the government agency that monitors how much power we are burning in Ontario and where it is coming from. www.ieso.ca. By the hour, it'll tell you exactly how much power is being burned, where it's coming from. Okay, so at 12:30, before I went on the air, at 12:30, I went to IESO, and what did I find? Well, we are burning about 15,000 megawatts of power. The load is not that heavy. How much of it do you think is coming from solar? It's a beautiful sunny day, okay? Beautiful sunny day. And there's a nice breeze. So you would think that, if wind and solar is going to provide power, it would be providing lots of it today. If not today, when? Okay, I will tell you that as of 12:30 today, IESO, the government's own website, says that wind and solar combined, we're producing 3.33%. So where are we going to get, if we all have electric vehicles, where are we going to get the power from? We're going to have to spend millions, billions. Okay, my next question is, where the hell do we get all of these extra $1 billion? We're already over almost $1.5 trillion in debt in this country, going deeper and deeper every day. So if we've got to spend tens of billions of dollars more just so you can drive an electric car, where are we going to get the money from? I'll tell you where we'll get it from. Our children, our children's children, our children's children, our children's children. Where else? We don't have it. You got some more text coming in here, John.
Our first comment on the all-new Lowell Green Show page on Facebook. Maggie says, we don't have the electrical grid to manage all electric vehicles. Then there is a strip mining to make the batteries. Electric vehicles are considered a hazard if in an accident and require a hazmat team. More comments. Rob in Carlton Place says, I would not buy an electric car now, but they are getting better every year, and I'm sure they will be great cars. However, there's one supplier of electricity, and that is pretty much entirely controlled by the government. The idea of relying on government to supply anything is a very scary thought. I always wonder if these eco-nuts ever stop and think about that. Lynn says, absolutely no taxpayer rebates to buy electric cars. Pauline says, absolutely not to rebates. She says, my hard-earned tax dollars are not to bolster the sales of privately owned vehicles. My tax dollars are to benefit the country's service. Peter says, plus the way the power goes off and on all the time. Not a smart plan. 2 to 3 Teslas driving around here locally, and Nissan also around here with a big solar panel on the roof. No government handout or rebate. If you can afford to buy the car, on average, don't need a rebate. Mike says, I was listening to Mark Snow and Ian Lee about Line 5 this morning. Very good interview. Not a peep from Trudeau or Biden. If Biden let this happen, it'll get worse for Canada than anything Trump ever did. Again, Lowell, people are finally talking about something you've been talking about for a month now.
How about 2 months? This whole business about, we've got to get electric vehicles, we've got to scrap fossil fuels, et cetera, et cetera. I think the whole question of having to get rid of fossil fuels of any kind, I think that there's some really serious questions about this. I am beginning more and more. In fact, there are 2 chapters in my most recent book that deal with this. There are very, very interesting experiments underway. One of them at MIT, one of the world's most, advanced universities. Very advanced studies right now underway at MIT and at Harvard University on methods of getting rid of CO2 from the atmosphere and converting it into either a harmless gas or, in some cases, converting CO2, that's the so-called global warming gas, converting it into something that can be burned fossil fuel free. So I think that this is the future. In fact, there's another major story this morning. More and more, there's no question that we are able to take CO2 out of the air. My wife just got me one of these, things that you spray what the hell do you call it? Comes out of Israel. My mind has gone blank here. Can you help me? SodaStream things. SodaStream.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, SodaStream. Okay. So you press this little button, and guess what goes down into the water? CO2. So very clearly, they have taken CO2 out of the atmosphere, jammed it into this bottle, and that's what you put in. And I mean, Coke, when you open up a Coke, you go, what is that? That's CO2. When you open the can of beer, not that anybody would open a beer around here, but what do you hear? Yes, that's CO2. So very clearly, we have the technology, and have had it for a long time, of taking CO2 out of the air. Well, increasingly, we are able to take it out of the air in more and more economical means, and we are beginning to find ways of converting it into something useful. So I think that's the future. This idea that somehow or other we're going to stop fossil fuels and shut down all manufacturing, I think that that's not the direction that we're going. But anyway, I could be wrong. But I look at some of the things that have happened here, and it just really makes me wonder. Al Gore, and it's out there for everybody to see, Al Gore promised that the Arctic would be ice-free by 2013. Yes, he did. It's on the record. Well, I'm going to tell you, and you can check this out again, just go to Arctic Ice. You will see that the latest figures indicate that there is more ice cover on the Arctic today than there has been in the last 10 years. The amount of ice in Antarctica is up about 40% over the last 20 years. The oceans by now, said David Suzuki, would be flooding downtown Miami and New York. They're nowhere near it. No sign of it at all. Wind and solar panels is the solution, according to the environmentalists. But despite billions and billions yanked from our pockets, most days wind and solar produce less than 5%, as I said, as of 12:30 today. 3.3% after all of the billions. So, and as I say, the carbon, he keeps adding carbon tax. And he's going to continue every April 1st until he's essentially going to bankrupt us all. And what's it accomplishing? We're driving bigger and bigger vehicles. It's not working except to impoverish us. We have a phone. Yes, John.
Yes, we do. Dave, thanks for checking in. We're at 413-2217 in the 613. Go ahead. You're on with Lowell Green.
Yeah, well, for me, it'd be no to the electric car for now. That's for sure, because we don't have the grid, and it's impossible. The cost is ridiculous to buy one of those cars. But one thing I just wanted to quickly bring up was Aaron O'Toole had a press conference this morning, and the first question he gets asked is about abortion.
Oh, boy.
I mean, this is where our media is. I mean, it's unbelievable. I feel, like I don't know whether he could have just said, I don't want to talk about this. It's over with. Let's talk about the vaccination. Let's talk about pipelines. I mean, he's going to have to start coming out and saying he's going to rebuild Energy East. He should say that. I'm going to rebuild Energy East. That's it. We're going to complete it so that we're not put in this type of position again. And I think he has to explain to the Canadian people what the repercussions of Line 5 are, because none of my neighbors even understand it. They just think we're going to magically get this gas to heat their houses.
I mean, you know that I'm a staunch conservative. I'm gonna weep if we have another 4 or 5 years of Liberals. Oh. But I have to be honest. Yesterday was International Women's Day. This, it seems to me, is a day that Aaron O'Toole should have come out and with his entire team, and he has a wonderful team of women, strong women, powerful women, effective women, competent women. He didn't come out and utter a damn peep. I mean, there's this missed opportunity. You know who did come out and made statements, all kinds of statements? Derek Sloan. So there is Derek Sloan being featured. Trudeau is being featured. And here is the great opportunity. And Aaron O'Toole desperately needs the publicity. And there's not a freaking world. I am so upset. They're after me for money. And you know what? I told them, I'm not giving you any money until you smarten up.
Well, last night, he and Poilievre ran a thing on Facebook where he interviewed Aaron O'Toole, and they took questions from whoever wanted to send a question in.
Yep.
He did talk about it a bit there, but again,
good.
How many people are watching that? I watched it.
He should have been all over the place with his all over the place. He has by far the best women in Parliament.
I tell you, the Conservatives have some absolutely smart, some of the smartest people in Canada.
No question, as women. And he totally women, ignores them.
You just go down the line, and it's like crickets. It's unbelievable.
Thank you for the call. We're almost out of time here. Talking about the carbon tax increasing on April 1st, I just want to remind you again, folks, carbon tax increased 50% April the 1st. But in addition to that, the government rebates on appliances ends at the end of this month. Now, Mark Shields has contacted me and said, Lowell, please let your listeners or your viewers know that as of the end of this month, there are no more government rebates. So if you're in the market for the reason the government, now you can question whether, the government rebates are applicable, but at least with government rebates on new appliances, they burn much less energy, much less electricity. So at least there is advantage. It works. But the rebates, whatever your political position may be on this, the rebates end as of the end of this month on appliances. So my message to you is, if you're in the market for appliances of any kind, even if you think, geez, maybe by spring I may need one, don't leave it. Because I'm going to tell you, no more government rebates as of the 1st of April, and the carbon tax. So the cost is going to go up. Save yourself some money. Shields is a place that you can trust. You can check them out, shields.ca. You'll see all of the product they've got there. It's in stock. They'll have it delivered to your home in 2 or 3 days with a very friendly driver. Yes, we have some more emails coming in, John.
We do. How about a word for Centennial Glass, though? I think we gave Shield a couple of mentions today.
No, I talked to Centennial Glass last night.
I'm so busy, Lowell. I'm glad you're paying attention. I apologize. All right. We do have a text here at 613-413-2217. Thank you, Lowell, for asking the pertinent, timely questions, RE electric vehicle subsidies. My answer is a loud and emphatic no. Bruce, listening in Harrow, Ontario. Kent says he loves his SodaStream. Nina says she listened to Aaron O'Toole and Pierre Poilievre's town hall last night and was very impressed. Peter says he needs to pound on the media like Trump would. Abortion question has been around always. Liberal media pops the question for Trudeau. No one knew about the Facebook question and answer, and I don't miss much on Facebook, says Peter. Rick says Elon Musk himself admitted that we are a long way from an infrastructure that can handle more than the current small proportion of electric vehicles. Kent says the electric cost for vehicle cars is about a quarter of that compared to gasoline.
I have one other brief topic.
Yep.
I have talked about this before, but I am continually very suspicious about this idea that suddenly sprung on us that somehow or other we can now wait 4 months between the first vaccine shot and the second. As I've said before, yesterday we are told by these same experts it's 21 days, 22 days, maybe a bit more. Now suddenly, because we don't have any vaccines or very few, suddenly 4 months is okay. I must tell you, I'm doing some research. Most of the pharmaceutical companies that have made these have not signed off on this. Dr. Fauci says this is a risk. I haven't had, I'm 84, you know this. I haven't had my first shot yet. I have no idea when I'm going to get it, or if ever anybody over 80 is going to get them. But I'm going to tell you this. If I have to, I will object strenuously to being used as a freaking guinea pig. And if anybody tries to tell me that you're going to give me this shot today and I won't get my second shot for 4 months, I am going to be very, very upset. There is no data proving that. We haven't had vaccines out in people's arms for 4 months. This is purely experimental. I am not a freaking guinea pig. The only reason that they're telling us now that we can have 4 months is because we don't have enough vaccines and they want to stretch it out. The only reason is that it helps to make Justin Trudeau look good. What it means is that instead of having to have 60 million doses by September, all we need is 30 million. Who's going to benefit from that? You, me, and a pig's ass. I'll tell you who'll benefit, Justin Trudeau. Folks, I don't buy it. These are the same people who only a few days ago told us it was 21 days. Now suddenly, where did this come from? It's almost as if there was a bolt of lightning down from heaven, and suddenly everybody said, oh, yeah, 4 months. Where did that figure come from? Not from science. It came from pure convenience. Thank you all. We'll be back.
You've been listening to the legendary Lowell Green on blasttheradio.com. Connect with the show at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Find the podcast on Apple, Google, Spotify, and more. Or ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green Podcast. Lowell is live weekdays at 2 p.m. Eastern on blasttheradio.com.